Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 5 running back rankings. I have the 24 running backs that are my RB1s and RB2s for your fantasy football ranks for this week. If you have start sit questions, refer to the rankings. It's very simple. If I have 2 guys on my list and you have a start 2 of 3 question, start the 2 guys that I ranked higher. It's that easy, guys. This is why I put these rankings out, to try and make your start sit questions as easy and painless for you as possible. And yes, sometimes my rankings are not going to match what your priors are. Sometimes you just kind of have to deal with that, right? Like, I don't make rankings to try and be the consensus with what everybody else in the industry thinks. I make rankings off of my projections, and these are my top 24 running backs this week. Let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League is posted for week 5, and it is way bigger. It's week 5, so they made it 5,500 people. This thing has filled really early the last 2 weeks. It's filled like midday to evening, like dinner time on Friday afternoon. They've added 1,000 seats to it. It's probably still gonna fill early by like midday Saturday to Saturday evening. So make sure that you reserve your entries quickly. Smizzle.tv/links has your link to join the league. This is not a lobby game. You cannot get in there by going to DraftKings. You have to use my link. The Smizzle.tv/links link is right there for you down below in the description if you click show more, or if you go to the comment section, right in the pinned comment, there will be a link to that link tree that will take you there to get into the Listener League. $10 entry fee, 3 max, absolutely no rake. The best tournament on DraftKings. Go to smizzle.tv/links and join it now. I don't think that there's going to be much controversy in my top 4 this week, though we might get a little bit hairy as we move down the list. We're moving into week 5, so we've got some things that we can know about who these teams are and know about who their opponents are that we're facing, and that is going to greatly affect my projection. So at number 1, Christian McCaffrey, right back to his rightful spot after a 9-target game last week. That is the Christian McCaffrey usage that we want, that we need. 81 receiving yards, 27 on the ground. I want to see him settle between 11 and 15 carries a week and 6 to 10 targets a week. That is where this Panthers offense can succeed the most, and that is where Christian McCaffrey, for fantasy purposes, can succeed the most. 25.8 PPR points last week for him. Saquon Barkley, who was my highest drafted top 5 round running back this football season, is basically doing everything that we wanted him to do. That ACL is no longer an issue. The volume has been tremendous with over 25 opportunities. That's attempts plus targets in 3 of the 4 games this year. And the 1 game where he did not achieve that, he still had 22.6 PPR points. Saquon is a stud and will continue to be so as the season moves along. Austin Ekeler is my number 3 last week. Now here's the thing. Ekeler is playing less snaps and seeing a lower percentage of the Chargers running back touches than he did last year and then he did the year prior. But both of those years he got hurt. He said in the offseason that he wants them to use him slightly less. He is basically playing just under 60% of the running back snaps for the Chargers. However, he's still getting his usage on those plays where he is in. He's just not being asked to be out there 80-90% of the time. 13 carries, the exact usage that I want for Christian McCaffrey is just what Austin Ekeler has seen. 13 carries last week, 7 targets. The week before, 4 carries against Jacksonville. They got kind of throttled, but 8 targets. Against Kansas City, 14 carries, 10 targets. In week 1, 14 carries, 4 targets. That's the usage we want. That's the optimal usage in PPR games. He is also on pace to break Christian McCaffrey's catch record for running backs if he stays being used the way that they are using him. And it might be this boost in his targets and receptions because of the absence of Keenan Allen, but I'll take it anyway, right? When Allen comes back, we can see his catches move down, his targets move down as they have one more short to intermediate guy to target. But right now, with Allen out, Eckler's eating, and we're going to stay with that. So start him utter confidence. Behind him, now this is where I think people might start to maybe get a little bit frisky, right? Joe Mixon is my number 4 on volume alone. We've talked about it with the other running backs that are ranked above him, but Joe Mixon has seen more usage in the passing game this year. 4 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets, 9 targets, the trailing 4 weeks, as well as a high expectation of those 20 plus carries on a team that has been extremely competitive and made a lot of trips to the red zone, and one of the league leaders when it comes to inside the 5 carries, while converting on it less than his career normal. His career norms has been about 50% conversion rate on inside the 5 carries to touchdowns. He is well below that right now, only converting 1 of those carries into touchdowns as he did last week. Major regression candidate, should continue to score more touchdowns as the weeks go on, assuming that his usage stays the same. Barring injury, it is going to. Behind him, I have Leonard Fournette in a fantastic matchup this week. The Buccaneers are massive favorites, are playing at home against Atlanta, and Fournette is going to get a lot of volume. This is what it is. They pared down his volume against Kansas City because the previous 3 weeks he played 95+% of the snaps and got like 100% of the Buccaneers touches. Fits the profile. 7 targets last week, 6 targets the week before, 4 targets the week prior to that. Gets inside the 5 carries as well on an offense that projects to score over 28 points this week. How can you not love Uncle Lenny? Behind him is Nick Chubb, who right now is averaging the most fantasy points of any running back in the league on a per game basis, because partially reached 100+ yards on the ground in 3 of his 4 games, and had 1 game where he scored the 3 touchdowns in week 2 against the Jets, averaging 23.7 points. Gets nicked off of that top 5 just because the lack of usage in the passing game. Only 8 targets total through 4 games, an average of 2 per game, and everybody that's on this list in front of him can have like an 8 target game on their own, and every target is worth 2.3 expected fantasy points more than each carry. So Nick Chubb, reliant on getting touchdowns, reliant on getting you over 100 yards on the ground. He has to be hyper efficient to do it. However, big splash ability. I've got him at number 6 here, so it's not like I've got somebody who's, it's not like I've got him as like an RB2. I don't have him way down the list. This is where he is. I know that he's the number 1 scorer right now, but on expected scoring and fantasy points, give me players that project to get more targets when I'm ranking players above him. At number 7, Dalvin Cook. We thought that he was going to miss games, or miss a game at the very least, and he did not. He traveled to London and got 22 touches on 22 opportunities. The touchdowns have not materialized yet, but the offense has been solid, and he has been pretty good himself. 28 points the last 2 games for the Vikings, 23 points in week 1. I'm going to throw out the game against Philly because they look like an outlier defense on their own. The touchdowns are going to materialize. They're not going to continue to give inside the 5 rushing attempts to Justin Jefferson. He's not going to continue to get vultured on screen passes to Madison or like tight ends around the goal line. Dalvin Cook has an avalanche of touchdowns coming based on his current usage. As long as that shoulder holds up, I have him here at 7. At number 8, Derrick Henry. Henry's been very good so far this year. And you know what's the best part about it? 11 targets in the last 2 games. All I wanted was 4. If I can get 1 target a quarter from Derrick Henry, I think that he is the most dangerous running back in the league. They have given him 22 carries last week against Indy, 20 carries against Las Vegas, 6 targets against the Raiders, 5 targets against Indy. If he starts to get that sort of consistent usage, now granted, against Buffalo and the Giants, weeks 1 and 2, he got 1 target across those 2 games. They have to throw the ball to Derrick Henry on little screen passes, little things where you've got linemen in front of him where now the big man can rumble downhill. Absolutely scary if he starts racking up some PPR points every single week. Now, at number 9, I have Jonathan Taylor because they have not ruled him out yet. Based on the injury, I had to ding him, and based on the matchup, I had to ding him in this spot. Until they say that he is out, if he's out, it's very simple. Cross him off the list. There's nobody that's going to like take his place. Dion is going to step into some stuff here, into some carries, but he's not going to be as efficient a runner as Taylor. They do project as underdogs on the road in this situation. I don't really love the running game for the Colts against the Denver defense. I like it better if Jonathan Taylor is there just on a talent perspective, but if he's out, no one person is going to take over for what he can do. Thank you for the anonymous donation to $20 to No Kid Hungry. That's really kind of you. An anonymous one too. So I'm not going to rank him higher than this, and if he does not play, if they rule him out before Thursday night, just take him out and move everybody else up 1 slot. Khalil Herbert, assuming that Montgomery is still going to be out once again, is going to get a ton of carries for a team that just refuses to pass the ball a whole lot, and for good reason, right? Like, they're just not going to start becoming a passing team because David Montgomery is out. They are playing as underdogs and on the road. They may be forced into having to pass the ball if this game can get out of hand. But the last game got out of hand. They lost 20-12 against the Giants, and Khalil Herbert still got 20 opportunities, 19 carries, 1 target. He's been a very good running back from an efficiency standpoint, and the Bears are going to be built on the run. At number 11, I have Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders doing more than people thought that he could this year. He was my running back that I was targeting out of the dead zone. As you just emerged from the dead zone this offseason, Miles Sanders was just kind of sitting there ripe for the taking at like ADP of around 80, and he has performed extremely well. Now, granted, when Boston Scott is healthy, Boston Scott has taken the majority of the inside the 5 snaps, but without Boston Scott there last week, he exploded for 134 yards on 27 carries and 2 catches on 3 targets with 2 touchdowns last week. 32.6 fantasy points for Miles Sanders, and assuming that Boston Scott is still out this week, we'll see. Monitor the situation. You can feel free to bump Sanders down a little bit if Scott is back, because the touchdown upside doesn't completely dry up, but it does shrink at least a little bit. A 2-headed monster at running back is way better than a 3-headed monster at running back, especially when your quarterback is running as often as Jalen Hurts. Number 12, rounding out my RB1s, is going to be Jamal Williams for Detroit. Not expecting DeAndre Swift back. Williams is a perfectly viable replacement in this spot for a team that has been very, very good offensively, very, very bad defensively. He can catch the ball. Inclusion there. He will not get 100% of the work. Craig Reynolds is going to get some, but Jamal Williams is going to get the lion's share. 70+% of the snaps and touches expected coming his way for Detroit. We are charging through this fundraiser for No Kid Hungry, thanks to all of the contributions from the Smiz gang. That means you. Every single dollar helps, and we've had contributions as small as $1 up to $5,000. Whatever you can muster up to give goes a long way. We are shooting for $50,000 raised for No Kid Hungry, and every $10,000 our community raises, I will be matching $10,000 myself to give us a total together of $100,000 raised for food insecure kids all across the United States. Every donation you make is 100% tax deductible. All the donations go through smizzle.tv/charity, which is run by Tiltify, who will send you all of the tax documentation that you need, as every single dollar you donate is 100% tax deductible. So please give today and be a part of something bigger than yourself. Moving on to my RB2s. Number 13 on my list is Aaron Jones. Jones is the RB1 in a 2-man backfield that tries to run the ball 30 to 40 times every single week. 16 carries, 4 targets. The week before that, 12 carries, 4 targets. The week before that, 15 carries, 3 targets. Jones is an extremely efficient running back, but is not going to get a 25 touch ceiling, which is what holds him down here at the top end of the RB2s. If he was getting all of the use, if he was projecting for 25 touches, if AJ Dillon was not there, if AJ Dillon was not getting a greater percentage of the red zone touches, inside the 5 touches, inside the 10 touches, Aaron Jones would be a top 5 running back. However, this is the world we live in. I have Aaron Jones at 13 this week. Behind him, Jeff Wilson Jr. coming off of a very solid game on Monday Night Football against the Rams. So he's not going to get super duper flashy, right? He's solid. He's nice. He's on a really good football team with a strong offensive line, even with the absence of their left tackle. 18 carries, 74 yards, has showed a tendency to have long runs as well. 32-yard run in week 4, 37-yard run in week 3, a 16-yard run in week 2. You love to see that. Not included in the passing game in the game against the Rams because they didn't have to. Everything was kind of sewn up and they were playing from ahead, so 0 targets, but 3 targets, 2 targets, and 2 targets. In the 3 games prior to that, Jeff Wilson is solid but not flashy. On the other side of solid, not flashy, we have flashy but not quite solid. Now, he was extremely solid against the Buccaneers, which is somewhat out of character. One, for the Buccaneers defense, who they had 3 really good games against the run and then 1 bad one. Kansas City gets to stay at home on Monday night against Las Vegas this week. 19 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown, caught 2 balls. Also, one of them going for a touchdown, 22 fantasy points. He's not scored below 14.9 PPR points in any single week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been there. But like that's all you can say. Like, he just keeps scoring touchdowns. He's got 5 touchdowns so far through 4 games. And 3 of those games, he was not spectacular. He had 152-yard run in week 2, but other than that, it's been like he has like six, 7 carries for not that many yards, not great efficiency, not getting a ton of targets, but like finds his way into the end zone because the Chiefs offense is so very good. He should have scored less touchdowns than he has so far based on his usage. So I would not be shocked if they go a little bit more to the rookie Pacheco. Coming into week 4, Jet McKinnon had played more snaps than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Week 4 could have been an outlier, but based on the touchdown expectancy, I kind of have to keep him in this spot at 15 right now, though he is a little bit touchdown reliant at this point. That's where I have him. Somebody who has not been touchdown reliant, but has had a ton of volume is on the other side of that game, and that's Josh Jacobs here at number 16. Jacobs has been fine, right? Like, especially the last 2 weeks. The volume has been exactly what you would want if you drafted Josh Jacobs. Again, specifically the last 2 weeks. 20 opportunities in week 2, 19 carries, 1 target, but more on the line of what we want the last 2 weeks. 6 targets against Denver, 5 targets against Tennessee. Always targets, not just at wide receiver, but at running back as well. 13 carries, 66 yards, and 5 catches against Tennessee for 14.7 fantasy points. He blew up against Denver, 144 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and 5 catches in that game. Gets Kansas City from here on Monday night. They should not be playing from ahead in this game. They project to be playing from behind as they are 7.5-point dogs. So hopefully that 5-6 target number, 11 in the last 2 weeks, stays somewhat sticky for Josh Jacobs and allows him to be in this spot. You know he's going to get the inside the 5 carries. Somebody who has a great matchup this week and is at home and is favored and is playing against the team that we want to target running backs against is James Robinson, sitting here as my running back 17. He is entrenched right now as the running back 1 on the Jacksonville Jaguars. He plays against Houston, who have been really giving. Like we're coming up on the giving season, but Houston always seems to be in the giving mood, especially to opposing running backs, with allowing them to get 2.5 yards past the line of scrimmage before anybody on their defense lays a hand on them. If you do that with James Robinson, he has a tendency to break off long runs. A 50-yard run against the Chargers in week 3, 37-yard run in week 2, and a 22-yard touchdown run in week 1 against Washington. James Robinson in a fantastic spot this week at number 18, the other side of that game. I did not plan this way, to have all these players playing against each other just kind of back to back in the rankings. Sometimes it just kind of works out that way. Damien Pierce, 100% of the running back carries last week for Houston. They've ramped up his usage after not using him at all in week 1. 11 carries, 1 target, and really favoring Rex Burkhead that week. They've moved towards, look, we just got to play the better guy. We're just going to play the better guy. We're not a really talented football team. We're going to lose a lot of games. Let's run this kid out there and see what he can do. 20 carries against Chicago with 2 targets, 14 carries for 131 yards, and 6 targets against the Los Angeles Chargers. Jacksonville has been pretty solid against the run so far this year with their retooled defense, but Damien Pierce is a talent. Like, he looks the part. He definitely passes the eyeball test, and I have him ranked just ahead of another rookie at 19 in Breece Hall. Hall has seen an increase in snaps as well for the New York Jets. They drafted him, we thought, to be their number 1, but starting the season, Michael Carter was in that role. 6 carries, 7 carries, 8 carries in week 3. He also saw a bump in snaps and bump in running back touches in week 3. He saw a bump from that in week 3 to week 4. It now looks like he is the primary guy for the New York Jets with Zach Wilson back and healthy. The offense that I thought personally was going to be in an arrow up spot for 2022 now gets their fully operational battle station together. Garrett Wilson doing great things on the outside. Elijah Moore doing better with Wilson. Corey Davis is a thing. Gronklin doing well at tight end. And now Breece Hall with 17 targets in the last 2 games and 17 carries against Pittsburgh. They're kind of going to see the light at the end of the tunnel here. The first 6 weeks for the Jets looked really brutal on paper, and they have been. Baltimore's defense, Cleveland's defense, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh's defense, which is not as good as it was maybe advertised. Now Miami's defense. If Breece Hall rests this job and continues to increase his snap share and running back touch share, if he gets to like a 75% guy on a week in, week out basis, it's going to be tough to deny his talent in this New York Jets offense. So I have him at number 19. We could see him be a mover as the weeks go on. Ramondre Stevenson is my number 20. I prefer him slightly to Damien Harris. They are very close in terms of their snaps and touches at running back. Ramondre Stevenson played more snaps, played 55% of the snaps, had like 48% of the running back touches. Damien Harris gets more touches inside the 5-yard line, but Ramondre Stevenson more work in the passing game. So I have Stevenson ranked slightly ahead of Damien Harris. Teaser, Damien Harris is also going to be in the top 24 here, but I have him at 20. Be prepared to be frustrated. If you play one or the other, if you play Ramondre Stevenson, Damien Harris is going to score a touchdown. If you play Damien Harris, Ramondre Stevenson is going to score a touchdown on a pass from like 25 yards out. Just prepare yourself mentally to be completely upset on Sunday. I'm already tilting. Number 21, James Conner. Not flashy, not thrilling, right? Like he is what he is. He has not had a really massive game yet. He hasn't had like a great game yet, but the volume's been fine. And as long as the volume is fine, he's going to stay in the running back 2 conversation, even in a tough matchup like this against Philadelphia. 15 carries, 3 targets, 13 carries in week 3, 5 targets, 4 targets in week 2, 6 targets in week 1. As long as he maintains that pass game work, and if they can get inside the 5, getting the inside the 5 work as well, which is what he has seen the lion's share of for his team, he's just going to kind of persist on this list. If you have him, you're starting him unless you have 2 better options that I've already named. Behind him, Najee Harris at number 22. He did not make the list last week. He was a flex consideration, and he ended up scoring 7.4 DraftKings points against the Jets defense. They get Buffalo in this spot with a rookie quarterback. Harris had 0 targets last week. That can't happen. It especially can't happen when you have a rookie quarterback starting his first game. Pickett came in halfway through the last one. He is now the new starter here. I can see Harris getting himself 5-6 targets a game moving forward, but he's not going to see the volume that he saw last year. They've already pared that back, right? Like he's nowhere near what he saw last year, but it's still solid enough volume that he should be able to pay off. The problem is the touchdown upside is not there for Harris anymore because this offense has not been good. 20 points, 17 points, 14 points, 23 points. They have like a 17-point expectation, 18-point expectation every single week. The touchdowns are going to be few and far between. He has scored 2 of them, though, which is kind of nice. He'll probably lead the team in touchdowns, but they're not going to be something we can count on an every week basis from Harris. So he's going to have to get you there on volume, and I'm hoping that the volume in the passing game will increase from where it was last week. Damien Harris, as I talked about, Ramondre Stevenson, he comes in here at 23. And finishing off my list is going to be Devin Singletary, who is getting a lion's share, the massive bulk, like 4 times as many snaps the last 2 weeks for Devin Singletary, who has taken over the number 1 job for the Buffalo Bills, than Zach Moss and James Cook combined. That speaks volumes more than anything else, right? I was hoping through draft season, as James Cook was being drafted ahead of Devin Singletary, if you go back and watch all of my 0 RB running backs, value running backs, late round running backs videos that we put out here on the Fantasy Football channel, Devin Singletary was somebody I was clicking in a lot of drafts this summer because he was the lead guy, and at worst, he was going to see 60% of the snaps. He's seeing like 80 to 85% of the snaps the last couple of weeks. And if that persists, the touchdown upside just by existing on the field in a Buffalo Bills offense led by Josh Allen is tremendous, but he is getting great usage in the passing game. We don't need him to, nor expect him to get 20 carries, but the volume in the passing game and touchdown expectancy gives him the upside that you need as your low-end RB2 here in a game where they are 14-point favorites above the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.